Sad to see the summer go, but it's that time of year where I'm happy to be collecting free leaves for my fish tank. Follow along today as I cover some of the things you want to avoid and some of the things you want to look for when collecting leaves outside for your fish tank. Today I'm going to be showing you how to take advantage of the free resources in your backyard. Sorry if you hear the construction down the street and people blowing leaves. Anyways, let's take a look at some of my leaf piles, some of my favorite ones, and some of the ones that I avoid in my backyard. So first things first, when you're looking at leaves, it's best to just grab the brown ones, the ones that are all wrinkly and dried up, ones that just crumble when you touch them like that. Those are the ones you want. Try and avoid darker ones that have color like this. See, it's actually not all dried up yet, and that color is a sign that there's still pigment in the leaf and a lot of like not dried up organic matter, and that sort of stuff can end up breaking down in your fish tank and causing problems. It can also, like, you get this slimy residue that just floats around the tank and gets stuck in the filter, and it will clog up the filter sponges big time, so bad that it will essentially block the filter from running. And then the other type of leaves that you want to avoid are ones from like the front of my house is where I avoid, because I know that my city does mosquito spraying in the summers. And so even though there's a really nice maple tree, I don't know if you can see it, over there, but nice maple tree, which sheds some really nice leaves, I don't trust using them. There is one trick I'll go over later, depending on the type of chemicals they use on the tree, that might help get you around that. And then the last thing to think about is like the species of tree that you're collecting from. So most trees are completely fine. Looking around my backyard, this tree above me, right behind me, this big old one, it's a tree of heaven, and those leaves are okay to use. They're not really going to cause problems. Let's have a look at some of the leaves. The leaves are fine to use, but unfortunately, as soon as you stick them in the fish tank, they like deteriorate in a couple days, and it's almost not worth using them at all. And then right here, I have this oak tree. You can just come by, and once these leaves, this actually still needs a little more time. You can see that this is still flexible. It should crumble. It's still got some yellow, but when I look down on the ground, here are some lovely ones. This is a great one to pick. These oak leaves, oh, something to look at here. These little bumps, I think these are galls, but basically there's going to be like a little wasp larvae that lives inside these little bumps inside the leaves. The wasp basically like injects some growth hormone in the leaf and then lay their egg, and then this tumor appears, and inside that uncontrolled growth, the tumor, we have a little wasp larvae, a gall wasp. And I would imagine you don't really want that in your fish tank, because that's the kind of stuff that can just decompose. And I mean, maybe it's all right, but personally I wouldn't risk it, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. And gall wasps you can find on pretty much any type of tree, so that's something to be cautious of. So these oak leaves are great. They, on the other hand, unlike the tree of heaven leaves, they take forever to break down. They've got lots of form on them, really pretty leaves. So I'm just going to toss them in my bucket for now and keep collecting some more leaves. The other issue you might run across collecting leaves from your front yard is if you live in a high traffic area. I do live on a corner lot. I don't know if you can see that. It's not like a ton of traffic. There's no semis and big vehicles going by, but there is risk for pollution accumulation throughout the summer. And so I'm going to avoid collecting leaves from the front of my yard for that reason, as well as the mosquito spraying. And it's worth checking your city website to see if they're treating for other insects. If you have anyone come by and inject your tree for any bark beetles or the emerald ash borers, then that's a pretty nasty pesticide. I think it's neonicotinoid, and it can basically get infused throughout the whole tree, and then when they drop the leaves, those leaves carry it. When the leaves break down in the soil, those chemicals stay in the soil. So that's like one of the big pesticides that's harming pollinators. So if you're doing that on your trees, then definitely don't put it in your fish tank. It's going to be bad news, big time. And then another spot I avoid in my backyard is this dryer vent right there. It's kicking out a bunch of dryer fumes, and I'm sure the dryer sheets have some nasties in them that's not great for the fish tanks. And then maybe like a couple other things to consider is if you spray for wasps or something in like one area in particular, you don't collect leaves there, just go somewhere else. And then if you have dogs and they're constantly pissing in one spot, I would also not use those leaves. One, because I wouldn't want to pick them up, and then two, just probably not good for your fish to live in dog piss water. It's the following day and I'm ready to add the leaves. You really don't have to wait overnight or anything. Like probably just 30, 60 minutes is enough time to get the leaves soaked. And the big reason I'm doing this is because when I put them in the tank, I want them to sink to the bottom. If I just threw in dry leaves, they'd float on the top, and I already got a bunch of floating plants up there. I don't need them colliding. And then the other thing I mentioned I'd talk about is when you use leaves from an urban area, there's potentially soot and dust and whatever has been sprayed in your neighborhood can end up on the leaves. And boiling them is an opportunity to kind of clean them off a little bit. Depending on the type of pesticides that are used, like if it's the one that I mentioned that gets injected in the tree, like neonicotinoids, that's not going to really come off by boiling it. If you are maybe using some neem oil or something that's really organic, then it's entirely possible. Don't quote me on this, I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you're using an organic, like not even pesticide, but deterrent or something, then there's more of a chance that you can clean some of that stuff off and kind of break down those organic compounds. In terms of adding the leaves to the fish tank, it's really as basic as you might think it is. All you got to do is take the leaves in and toss them down there. And the benefits from doing this are really just adding extra habitat for my coolie loaches in particular. They will come out of their hiding more, and they'll hang out and kind of in the open because they feel protected being under the leaves. And then the other thing is the leaves will grow biofilm, and that's super beneficial for shrimp. So I'll be putting it in this tank and in the other tanks where I keep shrimp, and it really does help to boost their populations. Something else that leaves do is they add tannic acid to the water, which lowers the pH ever so slightly, maybe like such a small amount that you're barely able to register it. There's talk about leaves being like microbial properties and stuff. I don't really buy into that personally. Another benefit that they have is replicating the natural environment that these species come from, like these Gertrude rainbows in here. live in places with lots of leaf litter. So by adding leaf litter, you help to replicate their environment, especially for a fish like that that's kind of timid and is like constantly getting stressed out by the slightest changes or movements and stuff. Adding these leaves is a great way to make them feel at home. Well, hope you enjoyed and learned this video today. If you did, please consider supporting my channel with a simple like, subscribe, or dropping a comment saying you liked the video. Put in a lot of time into my channel, and I'd appreciate you helping me get my channel out there. Thanks so much. I sincerely appreciate it. Until next time, see ya.